So, Melancholy folks, we also were toying with the idea of having the theme titled The Sad Ones. Well, so what's the difference between melancholy and sadness?
Sadness is more of a bummer.
Well,
Melancholy seems more ethereal. It's more reflective and existential, or
and
Yeah.
be down with you. Well, how far down do you want to go? It just keeps you sort of levitating at this equilibrium of not knowing.
I don't
Okay.
know, I like it when you wax philosophic.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that.
All right, I'm kicking this off, but I'm very unimaginative this time around because I've got folk music three times over. With that in mind, I'll bring you Lily and Maria. And yes, it really is that washed out looking in the original. That's not an effect of the camera here. They are these ethereal young ladies who are just kind of manifesting in this world briefly before going away, which is more or less what they did because this is their only record. I think they were both teenagers when they made it in 1967 or 68. And it's this, well, to use my new found favorite adjective, very ethereal stuff, but it's shot through with some really heavy kind of vibes. There's an underlying sadness to it, and it's a bit sort of like I picture them as being, the sort of at the periphery of the party scene in Midnight Cowboy, not really joining in the psychedelic good times, but having a sort of bad trip instead. So this is some sort of it's kind of overly earnest, but it works because the vocals are so breathy and the arrangements are so for the most part so sparse that it sounds almost disembodied. So the again the cover image kind of does a good job of capturing the mood. It's bright, but too bright, so the sort of the light signifies darkness instead or something. Also, a very good sort of sexy time song called "Melt Me" makes a whole sexual encounter sound a process of dying. I don't know. They're this is an odd one and doesn't seem to be on too many people's radar. To my knowledge, it hasn't been reissued.
What label is it on?
Columbia, I believe.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
Lily and Maria. Check them out. That's item one. Item two is Michael Yonkers. Michael Yonkers is still around. He's been making music, I guess, for over 50 years now. This record was recorded, according to the information on the back in the 60s, but it wasn't released until much later, or at least sometime later. There's another date of 1974 on here, and this particular edition is 2007. Anyway, it's called Grimwood, and it sounds a bit like wandering through a kind of haunted forest with anthropomorphic, unhappy trees kind of crooning at you to the intermittent strum of a guitar. Yeah, a very lonesome sounding record, I think, and there's a really good use of horns actually intermittently, which Jackson seems to disagree with.
are you talking about the out-of-tune trumpet?
Yeah, you don't like that? It's
Well,
anyway, it's a highlight for me. It's this kind of little awkwardly hopeful sort of bleeding floating above the rest of the music. But again, mainly guitar, mainly vocal, some double tracked vocals, I think, that are done to neat effect. Yeah, nothing at all like the surf music he did prior to this. Okay. Then finally, I've got the most obvious thing, and either or both of you would have tried to pick this, except that it just seemed too ham-fisted and obvious. But I'm going to go for ham-fisted and obvious. The songs of Leonard Cohen. You just don't get a better bummer vibe than the High Priest of Toronto, in my opinion. And this one's got them all. It's got Sisters of Mercy, Suzanne, all the hits. Oh,
Solid
Marianne,
choice.
so long, Marianne. That's no way to say goodbye. Teachers, one of us cannot be wrong. Anyway, um, it's just a man and his guitar with these occasional accompaniments that drift in and out. And he's a poet, don't you know? And that's how we started out, poet and novelist. And so there's a literary quality that is uh, of note here as well. Yeah, those are my three. What you got, Jackson?
Oh, okay, I'm up. Well, I also picked Michael Yonkers, Grimwood. So this has a similar tone to Leonard Cohen's album, but there's something where Leonard Cohen reaches this exalted state as he builds up his songs. This never achieves that. It stays really low in the pocket of, I wouldn't call it sadness, of the melancholy, just sort of stuck in a world. He's from Minneapolis. He did lots of records. He did lots of collaborations. He did hard rock. This happens to be folk rock, recorded at home at his own studio, where he's adding things like recorder and out of tune trumpet in parts. Um, his voice is really good, and the craftsmanship on the songs is also really good, but very unconventional. So we would have to call it outsider folk, but experimental too at the same time. So this sort of, I was looking for a record that would represent the failure of the hippie movement from the summer of love to the winter of hate. And that's what I came up with. The winter of hate personified. Second, okay, so that was 1974. I'm going in chronological order again. And this is Pram, was an English group from 1994. Pram is a slang term for baby carriage. This is Helium. This is one of the earlier records. They're not all the records are not sad and melancholy, but this one struck me as being more so. So it sort of has this antique quality, even though it was done in 94. It's dark, nocturnal, has these queasy female vocals that really just cement the whole thing together. They use synthesizers, of course. I've heard it referred to as children's lullabies. Um, they use theremins. It's what I might call chamber rock, and it's got muted horns. It's got a little bit of jazz, but excellent drones. Keep it moving and interesting. So Pram from 94, Helium, my second choice. And third choice, this is most contemporary. This is from 2006, Espers 2. Espers is a group from Philadelphia. Let's see, Meg Baird is one of the vocalists, and
Record.
Greg Weeks is also instrumentalist and also sings. When they sing together, it's really beautiful. This is sort of Celtic and it sounds sort of traditional in parts, but every once in a while there'll be a distorted electric guitar, lots of synthesizers, and their drones just are way too long for a Celtic standard. Haunting melodies. This is their second record. The first record is also Melancholy, and the record that comes after this also has some interesting covers. There's a cover of Michael Hurley, who's a proto folk guy, of Bob Dylan's era, and they do a cover of Blue Oyster Cult
Oh
uh,
yeah.
on a newer record. Yeah.
Yeah. What song?
So the Weed Tree is the name of the album, and the song is called Flaming Telepaths.
It's a great song.
Oh yeah. So now we have more with Chris.
All right. So the first one I chose, Sunset Notes by Michio Kurihara. Probably didn't pronounce his name exactly right, but this guy, Japanese psych guitarist, he's played with a ton of different bands over the years. He's probably best known for playing with Ghost, like the Japanese Ghost, not the Swedish ones. Um, and he recorded a great album with Boris in, I don't know, the 2000s, maybe around 2010, something like that. But I think this record's from 2005, and I mainly chose this based on his tone. He's got a he's got a tone like nobody else. It's instantly recognizable, I think. Um, and there's just this sort of sweet sadness running through this record, you know? It's a beautiful record. It's mostly instrumental. He has vocalists on a couple songs, but it's mostly instrumental. It makes you a little sad because life is so beautiful, that kind of thing. Anyway, great record. The next one is quite a bit different. I chose Electric Wizards, Come My Fanatics. This is stretching the Melancholy theme to its outer limit. King Hell bummer of a record in a lot of ways. You know, this is, I don't know, I guess if we did a nihilism theme, this record would qualify. But this is a dark fucking record. Just super heavy, groovy in that way that Electric Wizard were on, their, I don't know, second, third, fifth albums or so. Very hummable, but also sometimes kind of spacey. And the lyrics are just dark, dark, dark. Great stuff. And then finally, if it's actually possible, an even bigger bummer of a record, On the Beach by Neil Young. I see you nodding your head vigorously, Jackson. I know that we're in agreement on this one. This record's from 74, and I think a lot of things have been, I think by 1974, a lot of things had gone wrong in Neil Young's life. I think he had, lost a few band members to overdoses, and
he was also really upset about Nixon.
Oh yeah, he was. Yeah, right. He was upset about Nixon. He did not like being famous. I don't know if this was maybe when he was living in, up by Zuma Beach or something.
So he hadn't discovered Devo yet.
No, he hadn't. He hadn't. Yeah.
Just in terms of turning points. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. This is definitely like, a 60s come down record. A couple of my favorite songs of his are on here. Revolution Blues, which is written from the perspective of the Manson family. There's even a reference to dune buggies. That's a badass song and super dark. For the Turnstiles is just a gnarly, really, really sad song. The title song, On the Beach. Even Walk On, which has sort of a jaunty melody to it, is deeply, deeply melancholy. So anyway, great record, big bummer.
Show us the inner sleeve. Yeah.
There we go.
Thank you. I feel much better.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that actually works. I had never noticed that.
I would call that the disembodied 70s.
70s ennui. Ennui.
Ennui, yeah.
70s ennui.
Melt me.
Hippie come down.
Ratty, tatty.
Hippie come down.
Copy here. Melt me.
Hippie come down.
Melt
Hippie
me.
come down.
Melt me. Melt
Hippie come
me.
down. Hippie come down.